Hey, have you ever felt like your brain is, well, playing tricks on you? That's exactly what we're diving into today. All those hidden glitches and mental shortcuts. Welcome to Your Deceptive Mind, an introduction to cognitive biases. All right, let me ask you something right off the bat. You probably think of yourself as a pretty logical person, right? I mean, you weigh the options, you consider the facts, and you make sound decisions. But how rational are you really? So what we're talking about here is something called a cognitive bias. The official definition is a systematic pattern of deviation from rationality in judgment. Now that word, systematic, is absolutely key. These aren't just random slip-ups, they are predictable, repeatable glitches that are pretty much hardwired into our thinking. So why? Why do our brains even have these patterns? Where do they come from? Well, it turns out they're not just bugs in the system. They're actually a fundamental part of how we manage to get through the day, all thanks to our brain's constant need to be efficient. I mean, just think about it. You make thousands of decisions every single day. If you had to stop and deeply analyze every little piece of information for each one, you'd be completely fried by breakfast. To cope, your brain relies on these mental shortcuts, these rules of thumb, to save energy and make split-second judgments. They're really more of a feature than a bug, built for survival and speed. And there's actually a formal name for these shortcuts. They're called heuristics. You can think of them as the brain's go-to playbook for making quick calls. And while they're incredibly useful most of the time, they're also the very thing that leads to all these cognitive biases we're talking about. Okay, so to make all this a bit more real, let's break down 3 of the big ones. These are biases you probably run into every single day, whether you realize it or not. First up, we've got a classic, the Dunning-Kruger effect. This one is just fascinating. It's this strange paradox where people who have a low level of skill in something often think they're amazing at it. And at the same time, the actual experts are the ones who tend to doubt themselves, feeling like they don't know enough. It's really all about a breakdown in self-awareness. And this really shows you the two sides of that coin perfectly. On one side, you've got people with low skills who, well, they don't know what they don't know, so they can't even see their own mistakes. But on the other side, you have the true experts. They're so deeply aware of all the complexities of their field that they are far more likely to underestimate just how much they actually know. It's wild when you think about it. All right, next up is a big one. I mean, this is probably one of the most common ones out there, confirmation bias. This is that little voice in our head that just loves to be right. It's our natural instinct to seek out, believe, and remember any information that backs up what we already think, while we conveniently ignore or dismiss anything that might challenge us. It's basically our brain on a constant mission to say, "See, I knew it." Exactly. We're not just passively stumbling upon this stuff, we actively look for it. We interpret things in a way that fits our existing worldview, and we remember all of the hits while forgetting the misses. And if you want a perfect modern example, just look at your social media feed. Those algorithms, they're basically confirmation bias machines, designed to keep you in an echo chamber by showing you exactly what you already agree with. And for our third example, let's talk about hyperbolic discounting. This is the ultimate battle between now you and future you. It explains why we so often choose a small, immediate reward over a much, much bigger one down the road. It's that nagging voice in your head that says, yeah, that big prize later sounds nice, but I could have this smaller prize right now. And check this out. This study is a perfect illustration. When people were asked to choose a snack for next week, a whopping 74% chose fruit. Super responsible, right? But when they had to choose a snack for right now, for today, 70% grabbed the chocolate. That is hyperbolic discounting in a nutshell. Future me is healthy and responsible. Right now me wants chocolate. So we've seen how these biases can trip us up. It's really easy to just think of them as mistakes or flaws in our thinking, right? But is it really that simple? Is a bias always a bad thing? Turns out there's a bit of a debate about that. Let's go back to confirmation bias for a second. On the one hand, yeah, it totally distorts how we see reality. But some researchers argue, hang on a minute. They think it might actually be a pretty useful social skill. I mean, think about it. When you're trying to connect with someone new, you look for common ground, right? You try to confirm what you think they're about. It helps you build rapport and establish a connection faster. So what looks like a bug in our rational thinking could actually be a feature for just, getting along with people. So at this point, you might be thinking, Okay, awesome. I get it. I know about these biases now, so I'm safe. Well, not so fast. And that brings us to our final and maybe the most crucial takeaway of all. This idea has a fantastic name, the G.I. Joe fallacy. Remember that old cartoon? They'd always end by saying, and knowing is half the battle. Well, when it comes to cognitive biases, that's just not true. Simply knowing that a bias exists doesn't magically make you immune to it. It's kind of like a bias about biases, this mistaken belief that just being aware of the problem is enough to solve it. It isn't. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Look, knowing all this stuff doesn't give you a superpower to avoid biases completely. But what it does give you is a new lens, a new way of looking at the world and at your own mind. So now that you know what you're looking for, I'm curious, which one are you going to notice first?